The stars above the colony world of Arendor 7 shimmered like scattered diamonds. But the beauty of the night sky could not hide the fear that gripped its people. Smoke rose from shattered buildings, and the ground shook as the Krath, a ruthless alien empire, unleashed their relentless attacks. The humans and the local inhabitants had fought as best they could, but the Krath forces were too powerful. Entire cities were leveled in moments, and the cries of the frightened echoed across the barren plains. In the command center of the colony, Governor Lyra Hensley stared at the blinking screens in disbelief. Her colony had survived decades of hardship, learning to adapt to the harsh environment of Arendor 7. But now, it seemed everything was about to be lost. "They're unstoppable," said a young lieutenant, his voice trembling. "Every resistance fleet we send, they're destroyed before they even reach the orbit." Governor Hensley clenched her fists. "We cannot give up. There must be a way. Evacuation is an option, yes, but leaving our people to die in the hands of the Krath is not something I can allow." The lieutenant swallowed hard. "The reports say a human fleet is approaching. But the distance. They cannot arrive in time." Lyra's eyes widened. She had heard stories of humanity, of the legendary explorers and warriors who traveled far beyond known space. But in this galaxy, humans were almost mythical. Some said they were reckless, some said fearless, but all agreed that humans never failed to turn impossible odds into victory. "They are coming," she whispered. Hope sparked in her chest. It was a fragile hope, like a candle in the wind, but it was still hope. "Then we hold on. We hold on until they arrive." Far above Arendor 7, the human fleet emerged from hyperspace, their ships gleaming under the light of a distant sun. The Admiral Jarek Thorne stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the Resolute, observing the war-torn planet below. "Admiral," said his aide, "the Krath fleet is positioned in orbit. They are preparing to launch a full assault. If we wait too long—" "I know," Thorne said quietly, his eyes scanning the battlefield. "I've studied their patterns. The Krath rely on fear and overwhelming force, but they underestimate humans. That is their first mistake. The humans were different. They did not rely solely on brute strength. They adapted, they improvised, and they thought ahead. That was why legends of human courage traveled across galaxies, reaching even the darkest corners. And now, these humans had come not as mere fighters, but as protectors. On Arendor 7, as the Krath advanced their siege, civilians scrambled for shelter. Families clutched their children, while soldiers tried desperately to hold positions. A young engineer, Tessa Rin, worked feverishly to repair a damaged energy cannon. Sparks flew from the machinery, and her hands were blackened with grease. But she did not stop. She had seen enough of the Krath's cruelty to know that every second counted. Suddenly, a distant shimmer appeared on the horizon, bright, almost blinding. The people of Arendor 7 paused, unsure what it was. Then the realization struck. These were the ships. Humans. They've come," whispered a child hiding behind a ruined wall. The Krath noticed too. Their commanders, sleek and menacing in appearance, barked orders through sharp, alien clicks. "Identify them. Wire their reinforcements. Destroy them immediately." But the humans did not rush blindly. They deployed strategically, forming a protective perimeter around the colony's most vulnerable areas. Their ships moved with precision, scanning, analyzing, predicting enemy movements. Unlike the Krath, who relied on sheer firepower and fear, humans relied on intelligence and coordination. Admiral Thorne activated his communication console. "To the people of Arendor 7, this is Admiral Jarek Thorne of the United Human Fleet. Your fight is not over. Stand your ground. We are here." Across the planet, screens lit up with his calm, resolute face. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then, slowly, hope spread like wildfire. Soldiers straightened their backs. Civilians held their breath, but they no longer trembled as much. Humans had arrived. The first clash was immediate. Krath ships descended from orbit with immense firepower, confident that they could crush the human fleet. But humans were ready. They did not attack head-on. Instead, smaller strike teams darted through weak points in the Krath formation. Shield drones intercepted energy blasts, while human fighters used rapid maneuvers the aliens could not predict. On the ground, Tessa Rin coordinated with human engineers, linking the colony's defensive systems to the fleet's control network. Together, they could target the Krath with surgical precision. One by one, the enemy ships were disabled, their energy cores forced offline. The Krath were confused. Their strategies, which had worked across dozens of worlds, failed against humans. Admiral Thorne observed calmly. "Adaptation is the key," he murmured to his aide. "The Krath rely on fear. But humans don't fight like that. We fight with thought, with courage, and with unity. See, the Krath rely on fear." See, above Arendor 7. The battle continued. The Krath unleashed massive plasma cannons, but the humans anticipated the attacks. Entire enemy squads were neutralized before they even reached firing range. Alien commanders hissed in frustration, unable to understand how these humans moved like one entity, each action precise and coordinated. Meanwhile, on the planet, Governor Hensley led evacuation teams through the chaos, guiding civilians to safety while coordinating with human forces. She saw humans working alongside local soldiers, showing them maneuvers, teaching them strategies, and boosting morale. In the middle of despair, humans brought hope. A young pilot, Kai Mercer, soared in his fighter above the city, weaving through enemy fire. With sharp reflexes and precise calculations, he disabled the Krath's artillery platform. His actions inspired others. Soon, humans and locals alike coordinated strikes that turned the tide. By the end of the day, the Krath had suffered unexpected losses. Ships that they considered invincible were destroyed, and their command structures were in disarray. They had underestimated humans again and again. At sunset, the battlefield was quiet for a moment. The smoke from destroyed ships rose into the crimson sky, but the humans remained vigilant. Admiral Thorne addressed his fleet. "This is only the beginning. The Krath will not surrender easily. But today, humanity has shown what it can do. Remember, our strength lies not in our weapons, but in our minds, in our courage, and in our unity. We fight not for conquest, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves." On Arendor 7, Governor Hensley watched the human ships hover above, a symbol of hope and resilience. She knew the battle was far from over, but now, her people had a chance to survive, to fight back, and perhaps even to win. As night fell, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The humans had arrived, and with them, the galaxy's oppressed had witnessed something extraordinary. A species that would fight against impossible odds, adapt, and triumph. The Krath were far from defeated. But one thing was clear. They had never faced humans like this before. And in that certainty, the seeds of fear began to grow in their ranks. To be continued. The dawn on Arendor 7 was heavy with tension. The Krath had retreated temporarily, but their massive fleet still lingered at the edge of the system, circling like predators waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The human fleet, steady and unwavering, remained above the planet, a shield of hope and strategy for the frightened colonies below. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Jarek Thorne studied the enemy formations through the holographic display. Every ship, every movement of the Krath fleet was predicted with careful calculations. "They're reorganizing," said his aide, Lieutenant Mara Voss. "They will try a direct assault in less than 2 hours." "Good," Thorne said. "We'll be ready. Humanity has never faced odds like these and failed. We'll show them why." The human fleet moved with precision. Unlike the Krath, who relied on overwhelming force and intimidation, humans fought with strategy, observation, and ingenuity. They did not aim to destroy mindlessly. They aimed to disable, confuse, and turn the enemy's strength against them. On the ground, Tessa Rin and her team continued linking the colony's defense systems to the human fleet. Energy barriers, automated drones, and targeting arrays hummed with power. Tessa wiped the sweat from her brow. "If we synchronize with the fleet perfectly, we can guide their strikes. They won't see it coming. Governor Lyra Hensley joined her, observing the defensive preparations. We never had this technology before. The humans, they're different. They are, Tessa agreed, her fingers dancing across the console. They think ahead. They adapt. They never stop learning. Far above the planet, the Krath launched their counterattack. Waves of sleek, menacing ships descended, plasma cannons blazing. The humans, anticipating this move, split into smaller tactical units. Human fighters weaved through enemy fire, exploiting weak points in formations. Shield drones intercepted energy blasts, and electronic countermeasures scrambled the Krath sensors. In one daring maneuver, pilot Kai Mercer led a squadron through a narrow asteroid belt, using it as cover to attack the Krath's command ship. He twisted and turned his fighter with incredible precision, dodging energy beams that would have obliterated any other ship. "We're doing it!" he shouted over the comms. "We're hitting their command center." On the Krath flagship, the alien commanders hissed in confusion. "How do they know our movements? How do they anticipate us? This is impossible," one of them said, his voice tinged with fear. "They adapt too fast. They are not like the others we've faced." Back on the ground, Tessa's system locked onto the enemy artillery. With human guidance, local defense batteries targeted the Krath cannons with pinpoint accuracy, destroying one after another. Civilians, who had once cowered in fear, now watched in awe as the humans and locals fought side by side. In the midst of the chaos, human engineers also demonstrated their ingenuity. One team hacked into a Krath energy relay, redirecting its power to disable enemy shields. Another team captured a disabled alien drone and reprogrammed it to assist in defense. Each action, no matter how small, multiplied the effectiveness of the human fleet. Admiral Thorne observed calmly from the Resolute. "Remember," he told his officers, "our greatest weapon is the human mind. Strength is useful, but intelligence, courage, and teamwork, these win battles no one else can." As the day progressed, the battle raged across space. Krath ships were destroyed, not through sheer force alone, but because humans predicted their every move. They set traps, feigned retreats, and lured the enemy into vulnerable positions. Each human strike was precise, calculated, and deadly in its efficiency. On Arendor 7, Governor Hensley coordinated civilian evacuations while observing the fight above. Children pointed at the sky, their eyes wide with wonder, as human fighters performed daring maneuvers, dodging enemy fire and turning the odds against the Krath. "Tessa," Lyra called, "look at them. They're amazing." Tessa smiled but kept her focus. "They're humans. We've never seen anything like this. But this is what they do. They find a way, no matter the odds." Kai Mercer's squadron reached the Krath command ship. Using clever tactics, they targeted key structural points. Explosions rocked the flagship, and chaos erupted among the alien ranks. Without clear leadership, the Krath ships faltered, their formation breaking apart. "This is our chance," Thorne said, seizing the moment. "Push forward. Show them the strength of humanity." The human fleet surged ahead. Smaller tactical units disabled enemy support ships while the main fleet focused on crippling the Krath's heavy artillery. Alien soldiers were forced to retreat or surrender, unaccustomed to an enemy that could outthink them so consistently. Amid the chaos, a daring move took place near the planet's surface. A small human strike team, led by Captain Elena Drax, maneuvered past the enemy blockade to land near the central Krath supply base. Using rapid, silent attacks, they destroyed supply depots and communications arrays. The Krath troops on the ground were thrown into confusion, unable to coordinate with their fleet above. From the bridge of the Resolute, Thorne watched it all unfold. "Every small victory matters," he said. "Humanity succeeds because we don't give up, because we adapt, and because we protect others. That is our way." By evening, the Krath fleet had suffered significant losses. Their flagship was crippled, several warships were destroyed, and their soldiers on the ground were disoriented and retreating. Yet, they were not defeated. They regrouped, preparing for one last, desperate assault. Governor Hensley, seeing the destruction around her, felt a mix of awe and fear. The humans had turned the tide, but the war was far from over. "We cannot celebrate yet," she said, her voice steady. "The Krath will return," but humans were prepared. Admiral Thorne gathered his officers and engineers. "They may come again," he said, "but we are ready. Humanity does not back down. We learn, we adapt, and we fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." This is only the beginning. That night, the colonies of Arendor 7 slept under the protection of the human fleet. Fires from the Krath attacks burned out, leaving the world scarred but alive. Human ships patrolled the skies, ready to respond to any threat. Civilians whispered stories of the bravery they had witnessed, daring pilots, clever engineers, and humans who never gave up, even against impossible odds. In a quiet corner of the command center, Tessa Ryn sat, watching the stars. She thought about the humans who had come to save them. "They are not just soldiers," she said softly. "They are something more. They fight with heart, with mind, with courage that no one can match." Far above, Admiral Thorne looked down at the world. He knew the Krath would strike again. And when they did, humanity would be ready. Not because of weapons alone, but because humans never stopped thinking, never stopped trying, and never stopped protecting those in need. As the first stars of night appeared, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Humans had shown their power, not through sheer strength, but through strategy, intelligence, and bravery. The Krath had learned a dangerous truth. They were facing a species that refused to be defeated, no matter the odds. The next day, the humans prepared for the final push. They coordinated strikes, reinforced defenses, and trained local soldiers. Every plan was executed with precision. Every move was calculated. The Krath would have to face humans not just in battle, but against the very best that strategy and courage could offer. And somewhere, deep in the heart of the Krath command, fear began to grow. They had underestimated humanity once, and that mistake had already cost them dearly. They would have to rethink everything, or they would face total destruction. For the people of Arendor 7, the humans were no longer strangers. They were heroes, guardians, and symbols of hope. And the battle was far from over. The next encounter would be decisive, and the galaxy would witness what humanity was truly capable of. The sky above Arendor 7 was a battlefield once again. This time, however, the humans were ready. The Krath, furious from their previous defeats, had regrouped and assembled their strongest fleet. Their massive warships stretched across orbit, bristling with weapons and shields. They had one goal: to crush the human fleet and finish what they had started. But the humans did not panic. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Jarek Thorne studied the enemy formation. Every pattern, every tactic, and every weakness had been recorded from the previous skirmishes. He turned to his officers. "Today, we finish this," he said calmly. "The Krath believe power alone decides victory. They have forgotten one thing. Humanity never gives up, and humanity always adapts." Lieutenant Maravos nodded. "Shall we deploy the attack squads now, sir?" "Not yet," Thorne replied. "We wait for the moment when they expose themselves. Then we strike. Every ship, every pilot, every engineer, they are part of this plan. Remember, precision and unity win where brute force fails." On the surface of Arendor 7, Governor Lyra Hensley and Tessa Ryn oversaw the last-minute preparations. Energy shields had been reinforced, drones fully charged, and evacuation routes secured. Civilians, once terrified, now worked alongside human engineers, distributing supplies and helping to operate defensive turrets. "They've changed us," Governor Hensley said quietly to Tessa. "Not just protected us, but taught us. We can fight now in ways we never could before." Tessa smiled. "That's humanity for you. They don't just save lives, they inspire courage." Above, Human fighters streaked through space like silver arrows. Kai Mercer led his squadron through enemy lines, dodging plasma fire with expert precision. Each maneuver was calculated. Each shot aimed to disable rather than destroy, forcing the Krath into chaos. The Krath flagship, a towering behemoth bristling with weapons, fired relentlessly. But humans anticipated its movements. Human shield drones intercepted blasts, while human engineers hacked into the enemy communication network, spreading confusion. Alien commanders barked orders, but their signals were scrambled, and their fleets became disorganized. On the ground, Captain Elena Drax led another strike team to sabotage Krath supply depots and artillery. Using swift, clever tactics, they disabled enemy weapons and freed trapped civilians. Their actions created distractions, pulling Krath forces away from key positions and allowing human pilots to strike from above. "This is it," Drax said into her comm. "We hit them hard, and we hit them smart." The battle intensified. The Krath unleashed waves of fighters, hoping to overwhelm the humans, but human pilots moved like one organism, covering each other, exploiting weaknesses, and striking where the enemy least expected. Admiral Thorne activated the fleet's secret maneuver. "All units, focus on the Krath flagship. Use every system available. Humanity's ingenuity will decide this battle." A massive sequence of coordinated strikes began. Human fighters darted in and out of the flagship's blind spots, while drones attacked weak points in its hull. Engineers aboard the fleet jammed the enemy shields, and ground teams targeted the ship's energy cores. Explosions rocked the massive alien ship. Fire and debris flew across space as the flagship's power began to fail. Krath commanders shrieked in frustration, their morale collapsing. Without leadership, the rest of their fleet wavered. Meanwhile, Tessa Rin coordinated from the planet's surface, guiding defensive fire and assisting human pilots. Her fingers flew across consoles as she linked sensors, targeting Krath reinforcements and intercepting their attacks. Every calculation, every adjustment, amplified the human fleet's efficiency. Governor Hensley watched from the control room, awe in her eyes. "They're doing it," she whispered. "They're winning. Not just with firepower, but with thought, courage, and teamwork." In the heart of the flagship, the final moments approached. Human strike teams, led by Kai Mercer, executed a daring maneuver. They penetrated the central command chamber, planting charges on the core systems. In a coordinated sequence, the charges detonated, sending a shockwave across the ship. The Krath flagship began to break apart, flames and debris scattering in every direction. Alien ships nearby faltered, unsure of their next move. The humans pressed their advantage. Their fleet struck quickly, disabling remaining enemy vessels one by one. From orbit, Admiral Thorne observed the scene with satisfaction. "This is what humanity does," he said. "We fight smart. We fight together. And we never give up." The Krath, realizing their defeat, began retreating. Their massive fleet, once feared across galaxies, was in disarray. Ships fled in every direction, some destroyed in pursuit, others lost in the confusion. The humans had turned the impossible into reality. On the ground, civilians cheered as the last Krath patrols retreated. Fires from destroyed enemy vehicles burned out, leaving a scarred but safe landscape. Tessa and Governor Hensley hugged, relief flooding through them. Kai Mercer landed his fighter, his suit scorched from battle but his spirit unbroken. "We did it," he said. "They didn't expect us to win, but we did. And we saved them all." Captain Elena Drax joined him. "It wasn't just us," she said. "It was everyone, the fleet, the engineers, the civilians. Humanity isn't just strong because of weapons. It's strong because we work together and never give up." Above, the surviving human ships regrouped. Engineers and pilots checked systems, repaired damages, and prepared to assist the liberated worlds. Their mission was not only to defeat the enemy but to rebuild, to protect, and to inspire hope wherever it went. Admiral Thorne addressed his fleet. "Today, humanity has triumphed. Not through brute strength alone, but through intelligence, courage, and unity. Remember this. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. We fight because we can make a difference, and we fight because humanity never backs down. Governor Hensley and Tessa watched the sky, now calm and peaceful. The stars shone brightly, reflecting on the victory humanity had achieved. The people of Arendor 7 had witnessed something extraordinary, a species that could overcome impossible odds, adapt to any challenge, and protect life in the universe. Will they come back? Lyra asked softly, still cautious. They may, Tessa replied, smiling. But we are ready now. Humans showed us that courage, intelligence, and unity can turn fear into hope. That is a lesson no one forgets. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread. Tales of human courage, ingenuity, and selflessness inspired other civilizations. Humans were no longer just explorers or legends, they were protectors, a species that could face any threat and prevail. The Krath retreated to their territories, licking their wounds and reconsidering their strategies. They had underestimated humanity, and that mistake had cost them dearly. The galaxy had changed forever. On Arendor 7, humans helped repair cities, restore energy networks, and train local forces. They shared technology, strategy, and wisdom, proving that their strength was not for conquest, but for protection. Communities that had once feared annihilation now looked toward the future with hope. Kai Mercer, Elena Drax, and other human heroes walked among the people, teaching them, inspiring them, and showing them that bravery and intelligence together could achieve the impossible. In the quiet moments after the battle, Admiral Thorne stood on the observation deck of the Resolute, gazing at the stars. "This is why we fight," he said softly. "Not for glory, not for power, but for life, for hope, and for the chance to make the universe a better place. Humanity is more than strength, it is courage, wisdom, and heart. That is what makes us unstoppable." The people of Arendor 7 cheered one last time as the human fleet prepared to depart, leaving behind allies, hope, and a galaxy forever changed. The humans had arrived when it seemed all was lost, and in moments, the enemy had been wiped out. And for the first time in generations, the stars felt safe again.